I want to just take some time to discuss the recent filing of PWSA's compliance plan with the PUC. This office, through our audits and through other communication, we've been pretty critical of the PWSA and its operations. I've pointed out, the troublesome management turnovers they've had, their lack of a long-term plan, their weak communications and customer service, failing infrastructure, elevated lead levels, costly and complicated debt structure, and I mean on and on. But and I'm not the only one. A lot of audits, multiple audits from agencies have raised similar concerns. And last year, the legislature got involved and acted, and now the PWSA has entered a new era under the jurisdiction of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission. And that change is more than just procedural. It's and it's not just about rate increases. That's the way we think of the PUC. But their oversight has brought a new focus to finance and to customer service and to long-term planning. And it's forced the PWSA to set ambitious but achievable goals toward public health, the environment, customer satisfaction, workforce standards, and reliable infrastructure. And I didn't expect this, but the PUC oversight has actually set the PWSA on a course toward becoming a much more effective and efficient organization. One thing the PUC has required is the filing of a compliance plan, and that was submitted 2 weeks ago, and I've had the chance to review it. I'm not going to get too far into the details of that plan today, other than to say that I commend the PWSA for their effort in completing this step. I know they're working on a soon-to-be-released 12-year infrastructure plan, and I'm going to comment more on that once that's released. But I did want to talk about some of the improvements that we're already seeing. Communications and customer service. They're expanding their use of the internet and social media to stay in touch with their customers and their ratepayers. They have appointed or are in the process of appointing kind of ombudsman positions for to help people through the red tape down there, whether it's developers or businesses, trying to get through the red tape of the PWSA. And they're reporting now that they're starting to improve on their response times to customer complaints as well. We haven't tested that yet, but I'm sure we will the next time we look at them. When you look at capital investment, they're really advancing projects right now. 4 Mile Run, Sawmill Run, Woods Run, Lamphur Reservoir. They've really got a lot of capital investment at work right now to improve their operation. When you look at their water quality, they've done significant steps in lead line replacement this year and last year. So they're getting there as well. They're not there yet, but they're getting there. This compliance plan addresses a lot of that. And then even internally, just financially, their finances, their legal, their procurement, they're establishing standards. They are writing policies and procedures for all of the operations of the organization, and that's a really good thing. Now, all of these things could have happened without PUC oversight, but they didn't. So I'm going to give credit to the PUC oversight for making a lot of this stuff a focus for the PWSA and for their improvement. Since I started here, and really even before that, we've had a lot of problems there. Inadequate funding, infrastructure failures, political patronage. All of these things led to some of the problems at the PWSA. But the biggest problem has always been the incessant management turnover down there. A year, 18 months, 6 months. Every time you turned around, they were getting a new executive director. And you can't function that way. When someone comes in and charts a course for the organization, and then 6 months later someone else is coming in to chart a new course for the organization, and then maybe a year later it happens again, you can never advance. And one of the things that the PUC oversight is doing is getting them to focus on a long-term plan that can be run regardless of who the management is. I guess so it begs the question, do we need leadership change again? And that's really become a big topic around here right now. this privatization discussion that's been going on, is this really the time to have another change in the organizational structure of the PWSA right as they're getting up and running again? I was at Council's post agenda last week on this, and I think that answered a lot of the questions that we have about the privatization. And let me talk a little bit about that. First off, I think that kind of step right now for this organization is premature. I also think it's ill-advised. And I'm going to address two of the statements that we continuously hear about why this is important right now. Some of this was covered at the post agenda last week, and I agree with a lot of it. One is that PWSA's debt problems prohibit further investment. They have so much debt, and it's just impossible for them to take on the improvement plan that they have ahead. Well, that's just a false statement, okay? The fact is, as well as the city of Pittsburgh has done over the last 10 years, and we have done well, PWSA has a better credit rating than we do. Their debt, while it's costly and it's complicated, it's pretty much comparable to debt you see in water systems of its size. And so taking on more debt is not impossible. In fact, it's preferable to what's being suggested by some of the privatization efforts. In fact, PWSA is in a superior position to take on this kind of project. Public finance that's based on the useful life of an asset is the way this country has always done big projects. And it's the best way to do it because we are well ahead of any other private entities because of our ability to do low-cost borrowing, our ability to attract grant-based investment, things like Penvest, where we can get grants, where we can get low-interest loans, and we'll always be ahead of any private financing scheme. So the idea that the PWSA is not in a position to take on new debt is both false and in fact, I think that if we're going to take on debt, PWSA is the one to do it. They have a better credit rating than we do, and they can get much better rates than any private entity can. The second thing that you hear people say is that there's going to be a private water system built, and they're going to steal customers away from the PWSA, so we might as well just invite them in and work with them. When you look at the regulatory hurdles of creating a new water system, of drawing water from the rivers, of distribution, all those issues, if the community is opposed to the creation of that, of creating a monopolized water utility, the likelihood is it isn't going to happen. So this false narrative that people are putting out there, whether it's because people don't really understand the situation or whether it's intended with the intention of deceiving is a good question. But I would tell you that when you hear that narrative, the idea that, oh, they're going to be here anyway, so we might as well work with them, that's basically someone shilling for the gas company. Okay, that's what that is. It's not an accurate description of what's going on. And with respect to the other discussion at the post agenda, let me say this, and I agree 100% with this. We've been here before. However they want to package it, whatever they want to call it, this is exactly the same deal as the parking lease we fought back in 2010. It's the public giving up control of a public asset for current dollars to pay significantly more money over the life of the agreement. That's what it is. That's what the parking deal was. That's what this deal will be, however they structure it. To make it work, it doesn't work unless the private entity controls something. And whether they control the asset itself, whether they control the customer base, whether they control future revenues, whatever, they have to have control over something to get their investment partners in and to get their return. And they have money. So they have money and they're willing to invest it. For the promise that they're going to get more money into the future. It's a nice, clean investment for them. But it's no different. For someone to suggest that this is somehow different than the parking lease was in 2010, it's just not. It's exactly the same deal. And it's really the kind of deal that you do when you have no options. It's the kind of deal that you have when you're basically facing bankruptcy. We're not there yet. We're not there right now. And so, we're in a position now to improve this authority, to do it through this process with PUC oversight. Like I said, this is a lot of information that was submitted a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not going to bore you with the details. But this is the beginning. These are the beginning steps of how we're going to improve this authority, how we're going to keep it public, and how we're going to provide safe, clean water to the ratepayers of the PWSA into the future. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today because I know there's been a lot of interest in the issue, and I didn't get the opportunity to talk at the post agenda last week. So I just wanted to get those thoughts on the record.